know I've talked about this on some live shows on a couple of different occasions, I think, over the last week or so. And I might have even made a video about this last year or the year before, because I know this isn't the first time I've talked about this. But anyway, it's bowl season. And, for the last, I don't know, however many years you want to go back, there's been a lot of people complaining about bowl season and bowl games for a variety of reasons. And of course, we've got the issue now with a lot of players choosing to sit out the bowl games. And no matter what you do to try to quote unquote fix bowl season, the player sitting out is always going to have some kind of negative effect on bowl games as far as, fan interest or the number of people that watch or things like that. But I do think there's some things we can do to fix bowl season or make it more interesting to watch. I mean, the bowl games get announced every year now on Selection Sunday, the day after the conference championship games, and you look over the list of upcoming bowl games for that particular season, and there's a handful maybe that you look at and you go, oh, now that's, I want to make sure I watch that one. When I first started watching college football back in the late 80s and through the 90s, I loved bowl season. Now, some of it, there's a lot of different reasons. For one, I just love college football. But we would get out of school for Christmas break, the second week of December or something, and you're off till 4th or 5th of January, whatever it is. And there was bowl games every day, and if you're college football, you're a kid, you're a college football fan, you're sitting home some random Tuesday, a few days before Christmas, there's a bowl game on. And so I loved bowl season when I was a kid, and I loved it all the way up. I love bowl season now. It's not the same, though, to me. It's just, you have to know what I'm talking about. I read the comments from you guys and hear from you on the call-in shows and stuff every year about how bad bowl season is. And, there's too many bowl games. Too many bad teams are getting into bowl games. These are the things I hear a lot. This game was going to be good, but now all the best players have opted out, of course, which is code for quit. The best example of that is last year's Oklahoma versus Florida game in the Orange Bowl, I believe that game was. When the bowl games were announced last year outside of the playoffs, everybody looked at that Florida versus Oklahoma game and said, now that's the game you got to watch, right? And then half of Florida's offense quit, and it became one of the worst bowl games of the year. It goes from being like the most talked about bowl matchup of the entire bowl year last year to a blowout that everybody could see coming a mile away because, the Florida's quarterback, 2 or 3 of their receivers, they all just up and quit. No, we can't be bothered with the Orange Bowl. And it ruined it. Is there anything we can do to fix it, bowl season? Is there anything we can do to make, we can't do anything, but complain about it. Is there anything that can be done by anybody to save bowl season, fix bowl season, make it better, make it more interesting? Well, a couple of things. Obviously, the playoff expansion, whether you're in favor of playoff expansion or not, is not the point. And I know some of you are, some of you aren't. Some of you feel very strongly about it one way or the other. Some of you are kind of indifferent to it. No matter how you feel about a potential playoff expansion, that would help bowl season. If you're just looking at it from that angle, and I hear the argument, well, it'll diminish the regular season. That's a different argument for a different day. That's debating whether or not we should expand the playoffs. I'm talking about just the effect it would have on bowl season. If you go to 12 playoff teams, that's 8 more teams than we have now. That's at least 8 more teams that aren't going to have players opt out or quit before the bowl game, right? So in the model or whatever that they put out for the 12-team playoff, you got the first 4 teams getting a bye. That leaves 8 teams left. They play in round 1. That's 4 games that would be good because they're playoff games. And I'm assuming these playoff games are going to be tied to existing bowls. That's what I'm assuming for the purposes of this discussion here. So that's the round 1. 4 playoff games. That's four watchable, interesting college football games, right? Playoff games / bowl games. All right, so those 8 play, 4 get eliminated, plus the 4 that got a bye. You're left with 8 teams. That's another 4 games in round 2. Then you get down to 4 teams. It's another 2 games. And then the final game. So 4, that's 8, 10. You're talking about 11 playoff games / championship games ending with the national title game. 11. Whereas right now we have 2. Or 3. You have 2 first-round playoffs, and then you have, of course, the national title game. That's 3 bowl games right now where you're guaranteed not to have players quit or sit out. I say that. It hasn't happened yet. Will we see the day where a player goes, you know what? I'd love to suit up and play in this playoff game, but what if I get hurt? I don't know, maybe. But right now, no one is sitting out the playoff games. And you say, well, we got the New Year's Six. Those are already big bowl games. People are sitting out. People aren't playing in the New Year's Six bowls. I just talked about the Florida-Oklahoma this year already. Kayvon Thibodeau from Oregon not playing. The starting linebacker for Oklahoma not playing. I mean, just wait. You watch these New Year's Six games. You're going to see plenty of players quitting and not playing in them. So that's one thing you can do. And playoff expansion is coming. I think we all know that. There's some sort of jostling back and forth right now between the conferences. Certain conferences want certain things in the playoffs and blah, 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 and all that. But they're going to get that worked out eventually. Within the next couple of years, we'll have an expanded playoff. We know that. So I think that's something that'll help. But you know what else? And this is the main point of the video. And how long did it take me to get to the main point? 7 minutes? Good. Keep the main thing the main thing. Shut up, Kirby. Put the right quarterback in the game. You know what? That would be the main thing, Kirby. Keep the main thing the main thing. Well, how you preparing for that? We're keeping the main thing the main thing. The main thing would be play the most talented quarterback. I'm not giving up hope yet either. There's still a little bit of hope for my boy here. Still got a little bit of hope for my boy here. What would JT Daniels do? Still a little bit of hope. We'll see what happens in the play. Anyway, again, a different video for a different day. But you know what we need to do? We need to do away with conference affiliations with bowl games. And I know some people are going to say, oh, what? What about the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all? Yeah, that's amazing. The Rose Bowl is a pretty good example almost every single year. The Rose Bowl has to take a Big Ten team, and they have to take a Pac-12 team. Now, sometimes you end up with a good matchup there. Sometimes you don't. This year, for example, ain't nobody interested in watching Utah play Ohio State. No one's interested. No one's interested in watching that. And I haven't heard yet, but, Ohio State's receivers are probably going to opt out. God forbid they sprain their ankle in the bowl game. But you need to do away with conference affiliations. And this goes on all over. There's a bunch of bowl games where they have to take an SEC team and they have to take a Big Ten team or something. And just like the Rose Bowl, sometimes that works out. Sometimes it doesn't. The Sugar Bowl has to take an SEC team. And I am a college football traditionalist in a lot of ways. And I understand that the SEC has been playing in the Sugar Bowl for 70 years, and and the Rose Bowl's been played since 1900 or whatever it is, and it's always been the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. Bowl season is almost completely irrelevant at this point, and doing away with conference affiliations would be one way to help. How? Well, let these bowl games pick interesting matchups. Games that people want to watch for some particular reason or another. And have like a draft, right? Come up with a pecking order of bowls. If you want to put the Rose Bowl on the top, put the Rose Bowl on the top. And if the Rose Bowl is not involved in the playoffs, then you say, okay, as long as the Rose Bowl is not hosting a playoff game, they get first pick. The playoff picks there right now 4 teams, right? And then the Rose Bowl has the pick of the litter from every other bowl eligible team, coast to coast, any 2 teams they want. Rose Bowl gets to pick the 2 teams and pick interesting matchups, pick interesting games. Examples of that, I don't know. Say you got a coach. Oh, I'll give you an example. Let's say at the end of next year, Southern Cal and Oklahoma miss the playoffs, but they're both top 10 teams. Give me that. Give me that bowl. Give me that in the Rose Bowl when the Rose Bowl gets first pick next year. Give me Southern Cal and Lincoln Riley against his former school that he ditched in the middle of the night, basically, Oklahoma. What a great matchup that would be. You'd have all kinds of storylines leading into that game. Oh my God, Lincoln Riley taking on his former team. That's just one example. But let the bowl games pick any two teams they want and give us interesting games and interesting matchups. That's what needs to happen. Texas and Texas A&M, they refuse to play each other, right? Bicker back and forth ever since Texas A&M left the Big 12 or whatever. All they do is argue with each other. This used to be one of the games you watched every single year, came on Thanksgiving weekend, Texas and Texas A&M. Now, because the two schools are mad at each other and can't get along, we don't get to watch that game anymore. Okay, well, the Fiesta Bowl has the second pick after the Rose Bowl. So the Rose Bowl is going to give us Southern Cal and Lincoln Riley against his former team, Oklahoma. The Fiesta Bowl with the second pick in this year's bowl draft selects the Texas Longhorns versus the Texas A&M Aggies. Force them to play. Force them to play. So, and you get the idea, I think. I could go on and on and on and list examples of games you could give us that are interesting. Give us something to talk about, that give us angles and storylines and reasons to want to watch. Oh my God, Texas A&M getting ready to tee it back up again. How long has it been since we've seen this game? This is great. Remember when Nebraska and Oklahoma used to play every year? Now they did play again this year in the regular season, but let's say they hadn't played, right? Give me that. Give me Nebraska versus Oklahoma in a bowl game sometime then. So there are things you can do to make the bowl games more interesting, make the entire bowl season much more enjoyable and watchable for the fans. Players opting out, there's nothing we can do to stop that, unfortunately. I hate it. There's nothing we can do to stop that. Expanding the playoffs would at least increase the number of teams where the players aren't opting out, because like I said, at least so far, nobody has opted out of any playoff games. But I can't be the only one, man. I would love bowl season to be great again. I really would. I really would. It's a great time of year. The holidays, kids are out of school. I love that starting next week, there's some random bowl game on it Tuesday at 4 in the afternoon. And, the next day on Wednesday, maybe there's one at 8 at night, and whatever, you get it. There's almost every single day starting next week, bowl games through the end of the year. But man, most of these things just ain't watchable. Most of these things just ain't watchable, and I think there's some things we can do to fix it. And look, I know about the Rose Bowl and the Pac-10 and or the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. Come on, give us some interesting games.